We'd like to thank the following sponsors for helping provide this video.
I do want to give her props for the help she's done. I'm a senior Agile coach for Solutions IQ, and not only is this a presentation that we give at meetups and conferences, but it's also something that we use regularly with teams. And so I hope to encourage you or challenge you to use this or something similar when you're kicking off new teams with your with your own team at wherever you work or where you have influence. So again, this is a highly abbreviated workshop. When we get to the end, I will actually give you a link to where you can get all the materials and modify them the way you, if you would like, to utilize them with your own teams. But again, keep in mind that we're going to do something very accelerated. If you are going to apply this to a real team, you will want to plan on taking multiple sessions and maybe over a couple of days is where I find is the most effective. So first order of business, self-organize into a team of 5 to 7 people. And once you self-organize, pick somebody to come over here to this table and pick up some supplies. You'll need one sheet of paper called a member profile for each person on your team, a couple of stacks of sticky notes, and some Sharpies. And also grab one of these templates. You can see them all over the place. There should be plenty for all the teams that we have. But grab one template for your team. And I'll give you a couple of minutes to do that. You need one of these templates. And there's some on this side of the board pole as well. Now the preferred way, so we're going to build our team charter on these templates. So the preferred thing is to write on stickies and put it on the template. Okay, if everybody's formed your team and you have all the supplies you need, one of the most important things that we find when we're forming teams or trying to re-energize an Agile team is we want to build connections among the team members. So there's a couple of exercises that I recommend and I find very useful. And the first one is a member profile. And so you all have a member profile sheet. And so what I'm going to ask you to do is take a few minutes and fill out your personal member profile. And this is done without speaking. So no conversation. You can ask me questions if you don't understand what's asked.
So are we not supposed to talk at all for any of this?
You're not supposed to talk for this particular exercise. Just fill out your member profile without speaking.
From top to bottom?
Yes.
All right. What is the culture question?
Okay, so somebody asked me about the culture question, and that comes up a lot. But for me, I grew up in the South. That's kind of informed my culture. I'm Catholic. I have 4 kids. That is what's kind of informed my personality. That's the kind of question we're asking. Were you, maybe you were a Boy Scout or you're in the band or something like that. What has really made an impact to you culturally? That's what that question is. All right. So hopefully you're almost done. What I'm going to ask you to do now as a team is share your member profile with the other members of your team. So take turns and using your sheet as a kind of a guide, each take turns and share your member profile, your personal profile with each other. Okay, so we're still building connections within the team, and so one of the things that are very important is to kind of find those shared values that everybody on the team can relate to. So this is an exercise I've used quite often, and it has a couple of different steps. The first thing is take the yellow stickies you have and each individually write your 2 top core personal values. It could relate to work. It could relate to just personally in your life. But take just a second and think about your top personal core values.
1 per sticky?
1 per sticky. They don't have to be yellow. If you have blue stickies are fine. Okay, so hopefully everybody's been able to think of their kind of their core values. The next thing we're going to do as a team, I call affinitize. Basically, go through, look at all the values that you have, everybody's contributed, and sort them, prioritize, combine them if they're very similar, and then maybe categorize them. Try to boil them down into as few like things as possible. And once you do that, then everybody here knows how to dot vote, right? So then dot vote. And what you're going to try and do is come up with the top 2 things for your team that are shared most. But let's move on. So the next thing, if my esteemed colleagues from SIQ would help pass these out, these are team profiles. So what we're going to do now is you're going to take the role of a particular type of team. Now, if you are sitting at a table with people who are already in a team and you want to just do this based on the team that your real life team, that's fine. But we've offered you a team profile that you can read over and just play the role of this team for the rest of the workshop. So take just a couple of minutes. There's 2 on here. One's called Auto DUR, and the other team is called Bazinga. These are actually real life teams, but there's a description of the team, and that's going to inform how we do the rest of the workshop. So does any team need one of these? Okay. So okay, just a minute and just select which team or decide to do your own team. And when you decide your team, go ahead and put the name of your team on your template. So the question always comes up, why create a charter? And the primary reason I've found that's beneficial to having a charter is to produce alignment, and alignment along a couple of different lines: purpose, method, and values. What we do in the workshop is first just build some connections among the team members, and that's the discover alignment within the team members. And we did the values and the member profiles. What we're going to do now is we're going to talk about the different components of a team charter. We're going to talk about a mission, or excuse me, a team vision, a mission and tests, and then a working agreement. And then we're going to try and share as many as we can, if we have time, with the rest of the group. So don't put things in there you don't want to share with everybody. So everybody probably has seen, knows what a project charter is. I want to contrast this with what we're talking about here, which is a team charter. And when we started to do Agile, we want to produce produce teams that are long-lived. And that produced a need to really build around a definition of what a team is and differentiate one team from another in terms of what they contribute to the organization. So that's exactly what we're talking about here, is a team charter as opposed to a project charter. A project charter has a beginning and an end. A team charter, while it may change, the team is supposed to go on indefinitely. And while you may revisit it on a regular basis, it is supposed to help define and guide the team and the work they do with regard to the organization. So just like a team of athletic team that needs to be able to work really well together, we're making that analogy here. So you want to be able to find common values, make sure that you are all marching to the same drum, and want to make sure that everybody on the team agrees to a set of rules, and make sure that people positively agree as a group to work the way they're going to work, just like an athletic team would do. So the charter template that you have has a place for values and principles to help build those connections, and then we put in the team member profiles. We're going to talk about a vision and come up with a mission and working agreements. There are other things that you might want to put in your team charter, but they're outside the scope of this workshop. But you might want to add to the kind of work you do with your own team a talk or a definition of the boundaries. What are the committed resources? And when I say resources, I don't mean people. I mean things. And community interactions. What other external teams do you need to interact with, and how are you going to do it? What are those interfaces to other teams and other organizations or parts of the organization that you need to do? Charter development, when would you do it?
Forming a new team.
Forming a new team, of course, yeah. When else might you want to do it?
Change of membership.
Yeah, anytime you change the membership, you add a person, or as what happens over here and everything's reorganized, and maybe your mission of the team or what the team is actually responsible for changes, and or the interfaces and the products that they're working on changes. That's when you might want to either revisit your charter, or if you don't have one, of course, go ahead and create one. Yeah. Yeah.
Does this methodology also work for, a program of multiple teams?
So this is really about the single team. I would recommend. So there's two answers to that question. It's really for a small team to build those connections. But I will say that we've used this with management teams. So they're not in the regular sense a development team, but a management team that has responsibility for other people. You can use it there. But it's really meant for the group that has to work together and interact with others. Is there another question?
Oh, you were asking when else would the charter be revisited? Would it not if there were issues like things were not working well?
Absolutely. If the team's kind of in a malaise and you really need to re-energize them, this is a good thing to several exercises that you can do. So the main reason that we want to go through the charter is to create a shared vision with the team. That's to allow alignment of everybody. If everybody knows the direction they're going, then you're going to have a lot less wasted energy. You're going to be more harmonized. You're going to agree on many things. So you have these discussions and agreements up front. You actually document them in the charter, so that everybody knows what they agreed to do. And it produces alignment and really reduces the wasted energy that you have a lot of times. So this is some examples of some company visions. You've probably seen a lot of company visions. Some of them, my favorite, are really short, like Disney, to make people happy. IKEA, create a better everyday life for the many people. Some of them are longer. We've got, DuPont is pretty long, but everybody has probably seen company visions. I'm not really talking about a company vision. What we really want to talk about is a team vision that may be informed by the company vision, but hopefully will give the team some identity separate from the company as a whole. So, of course, the team vision has to support the company vision, but hopefully the team vision talks to the particular team. Here's some examples. So one of the teams I've actually worked for that was charged with really adopting Agile and making a change in their company, their team vision was transform the way we work to effectively deliver solutions in order to provide customers with a simple and innovative way to protect what matters most. Another one, this one came out of the book Liftoff. Team Curdle, I can't ever say it, Curdlemac, partners with IT security to provide an enterprise solution for identity management. We design and implement standardized access controls, consistent processes, and centralized security of accounts so that all employees have streamlined and simplified process for onboarding. Now, I think that's a little long, but it is an example of a real team vision. So, what I'm going to ask you guys to do right now is create a team vision for the team that you chose. And in order to do that, answer these questions. You know, what is the company vision? How does our team make a difference toward that end? What will we be known for? What feels impossible? Remember, the vision is something that you're not doing right now, a direction that you want to move your team toward. So it doesn't have to be something that is even obtainable, but it gives you a goal to go for. You can, another good way to do this is imagine 5 years from now. What is the most important work the team is doing? You know, what are our customers saying about us? Those kinds of things can help inform a really powerful team vision. Any questions? The best way to do this is for a couple of people to just kind of pin something out and then talk about it amongst yourselves and try to collaborate on the final version. Okay, I tell you what, if you haven't, I went ahead and put some examples up here in case you weren't able to come to conclusion. But in the interest of trying to move on, I do have some fairly good, or what I think are good. I mean, yours are probably just as good. In fact, if you want to contribute one for me to put in the presentation, feel free to do so. But this is something you can use if you don't have anything yet. Okay, so moving on. Yeah, do you have a question?
I was going to just say that one could combine the two mission statements by having the financial product dispense drugs also.
Yeah, you could. Okay, so now moving on. So the mission is a little bit different, or a lot different than the vision. What we're going to do is take the vision and our core values and help develop a mission for the team. You use the mission, or within the mission that you develop, you want to provide a description of the team's customer, the product or service being delivered by the team's role in delivering that product, the team's differentiating and compelling value to the organization. What we want to do once we come up with a mission, so what informs your mission is you need to be able to test it. Whereas the vision is not something that's necessarily testable, you want your mission to be measurable. So the mission is something that you can track your improvement on. So whether it has to do with results or satisfaction or some sort of business value or targets, keep in mind that the mission you develop needs to be testable. A lot of times we have a lot of little confusion about the difference between the mission and the vision. And so I put this little table together to kind of compare and contrast them. So the mission statement and the vision statement. So the mission statement is how the team will get to where it wants to be. Define the purpose and primary objectives related to the customer needs and team values. And the vision is about outlining where the team wants to be, communicate both the purpose and the values of the team. You want to answer for the mission, you want to answer the question, what do we do? What makes us different? And for the vision, where do we aim to be? The time frame for a mission statement is present, right? You want to be able to measure that now, present leading toward the future. And the vision is really just a target in the future. One last thing. So while your mission may change over time, the product, the objectives of the product that you're working on or what the team is actually working on may change. Hopefully your vision is more static. Hopefully your vision is something that is more stable and you wouldn't change it very often. So this is we're going to do an exercise to create a mission. The best way to do this is to brainstorm and quickly write mission items and put them on, well, I say the wall, but you can just put it on your template since everybody's sitting down. Talk about them, consolidate the items, and then vote. I would suggest that you come up with no more than 2 missions. Keep in mind, we're gonna figure out what the tests are for those missions after we do the mission. So make sure that you think about whether they're testable or not. Okay, we can take about 8 minutes to do this. I know some of you may have gone ahead. Here's some more examples of visions with the mission with it. I think there was I don't know if I pointed this out before, but here is a mission or a vision with 2 missions. So the one that the example I gave earlier about transforming the way you work as being the mission, or excuse me, as a vision, they had a mission of foster a digital-first culture at their company by changing the way we fundamentally work, being autonomous, utilizing quick cycles and test and learn. So that's an example of a mission that goes with the vision. They had a second mission, be totally focused on meeting the needs of our customers in order to improve online throughput and close the gap on best-in-class competitors. As an example, they had tests to go with those. So what I'm going to ask you now, some of you have probably gone ahead and done some tests, but now that you've selected your mission, you want to go through the same activity and develop at least 1 test for each mission. So figure out what the goals are, the evidence that means you're meeting your mission. Make sure it's something that you can kind of baseline and then track over a period of time. Then go ahead and talk about those. Go ahead and select one, and then write it on Roman vote to select it, and then go ahead and put it in your mission test section. Just write it on a sticky and put it in the mission test selection. Does anybody have any questions about what the test is? Or the mission test? I'm sorry?
What is a
Roman vote is just, does everybody agree on this test? And this is yes, this is no, this is, I'm ambivalent. Y'all go with what you got.
That's a text. Metrics, of course.
Also, if you need some more examples, the sheet,
So how do we make
we
these falsified?
handed out has a lot of mission tests in there.
You can
If any
fill
team
out
needs a
the
copy of
surveys.
that, just let me know.
And how do we percentages?
Yeah, like responses.
So it will be a specific survey response that we look at. What will be the thing that we look at and say, hey, that doesn't pass. So increase engagement in the product and process.
You want customer feedback at every level. That's when you know you're building something that they want or like. So I like that one. That gets a thumbs up.
So back to improve test coverage, do we want to improve from 50% to 80%? Yep.
Verge, deploy, and you get an answer right away whether it's working or not. If you add something new, if you add a new feature, if you add a function,
That's sort of the idea of Scrum.
Right, so I understand the philosophy of doing that, but I'm asking, how are you testing whether you're doing that? What's the test you apply to see if you're doing that kind of testing?
Take a person on that team and assign them to a sustaining team to do knowledge transfer. I call them defect captains, and they work on stuff. Then they come back, so they're always rotating through with the idea that eventually that sustaining team goes away. More successful. When the work is done and stable and it's been replaced, then you just have the functional team.
What is the makeup of the sustaining?
It's vertical. It's everybody, GUI, data path, control plane. It's everybody.
But they all move.
Well, we have a bunch of teams, and so we take SMEs from each team and rotate them through. It's sustaining, so that they're building knowledge.
So there's one from each discipline in the sustaining.
So, and that's how you can train new people to come in, so that your bench strength grows. And then the notion is sustaining goes away for that product, and then you've got sort of a sustaining team, new product. That's more, it's running combo. It's more just pulling tickets and fixing stuff.
So coming back to our kind of the example we keep returning to, for this team, for their first mission to foster a digital first culture, they came up with being aspects of that being autonomous. So they're going to track the number of times, the amount of times they have to engage with outside teams as a measure of tracking how autonomous they are. Utilizing quick cycles, they're going to track their cycle time for their stories. And test and learn. They're going to track the learnings that they have at each sprint. And for being totally focused on meeting the needs of their customers, they're going to measure their end-to-end throughput gap compared to the top 3 competitors' throughput. So that's an example of one of the teams. You have these examples at your table. Team Kirtle Mac. Their mission was we enable automated account provisioning by integrating with critical organizational systems. They're champions for the identity management tools they support. And we provide centralized and flexible reporting and certification process. Their test for that is self-service identity management access expanded to 25% more employees and contractors by the end of 2011. Hopefully they made it. I don't know if they did. And there's some more examples, but hopefully you get the idea that if you're going to have a mission, you want to be able to track it and be able to determine whether you're, keep yourselves honest on that mission and not just the fact that it's not just something written on a page. The next thing we're going to do is a working agreement. You've probably all done working agreements, so this ought to be pretty quick. If my friends at SIQ could pass out one working agreement form to to each team. You guys can have this one. So this is this working agreement is really just a guide. I'm sure you might have different kinds of things you might add to your working agreement, but it has kind of the basic things that I think you need to address in terms of behaviors on your team. So let's take just a few minutes. It's going to talk about your expected behaviors, the commitments of the team, the boundaries and constraints you might want to add that your team has, and any interactions you might have to have. So take about 6 minutes and fill that out together as a team. Consider things like working hours, locations, meeting times, communication methods, that sort of thing.
I'm for less documentation because we are an Agile group, so let's assume we are Agile, so let's not make that a big deal.
Item on the documentation. Right before.
Depends what happens when it crashes too. Get somebody in there to do hardware or something with it.
Sure, then it is.
I think that must be available for team questions.
But depends upon the priority of the concern. If there's any problem with someone just making limited
So how are you gonna? How are you gonna be transparent? How are you going to inform the rest of the organization of the things that you're doing and how you're doing it? Like, could be a Kanban board. It could be a burn down chart or a burn up release burn up chart. Anything that what you're going to do to radiate the information.
Holding up something so that basically a good dashboard.
Posted backlog. Posted, so it's publicly available. You can do it on Post-its too.
And also who's responsible for what's the holdup. I mean, like if there's
That's what we do. We just rotate.
And the other one question would be, who is invited to retrospect? Say it again? Who is invited to retrospect?
Big zone. I mean, the whole.
Who are the core members and who are members?
Right.
Who are the core attendees?
So we actually formally define who the pigs are and who the chickens are?
No, what is like, but definitionally it's only for the team.
Right, but they can invite.
They can invite whoever they choose to.
That's right.
And give me an example of who you might invite. So technically, traditionally, a product owner is not a part of it. You can choose to invite that person. An app dev manager is not a part of it. You can choose to invite.
And the team sometimes will invite the manager for a portion of the retrospective and then throw them out.
They won't do it when they're talking their mistakes and stuff like that, but they'll invite him.
An impediment list or something like that.
Oh no, they will invite him to say, hey, this is what we said. What is your commitment to resolving this?
Right.
I mean, how can that person be productive for the team and make how is the app dev manager down some barrier? Absolutely, which the team cannot do. Those are some working arrangements that I've seen.
because some of us might be morning people, some of us might be late night owls. So as long as we have an overlapping enough for meetings.
One of the things is to block out time that you're available because you may be coding or doing work and you don't want to be disturbed while you're doing that. So our team establishes, okay, we're going to have a stand-up every day hour so everybody will be there.
So just keeping with the example team that one of the teams that we've been looking at, they had a working agreement. They added some things like we defined done for our story as code complete, unit test, code deployed to stage, and functional testing, which brings up another point. Definitions of ready, definitions of done, they all fall under the working agreements. So those are things you can do as a part of your charter development. As you can see, they talked about their core hours. They cast no silent vetoes. We speak up. So you can put in things, non-tangible type behaviors that you want to encourage and agree on among your team members. The product owner, business analyst, scrum master, development team members all advocate for the team. So all for one and one for all. So now's the fun time. Who would be willing to share their charter with the rest of the group? Oh, not everybody jump up at once. Who? How about you guys? Anybody care to share their charter? Oh, you guys are shy. All right. All right, what's your question?
So the question is like, you said the chartering is well begun and has half done. What have been some examples of teams that have not done this chartering exercise? Not floundering or something of that nature. And what has been the example of having, once they have done this, course correcting? Just from experience, what are some of the examples?
What are examples of teams who have done this, or who haven't done this, or
basically, how would you kind of justify the value of doing this?
Oh, the value of doing this. Well, I find that it really provides a chance for the team to really become aligned. And it really focuses the team on exactly what they want to do. It also builds those connections among the team members. They usually operate a lot more effectively after they do the team charter. I don't have any analytical evidence of teams that have done a charter as opposed to teams that haven't done a charter. But I do find it's very effective in creating a bond among the team, and at least starting to talk about the things that you need to talk about as a team rather than just jumping in and starting to work.
Just a follow-up, how often in your experience, suppose the team does chartering, how often, how would you recommend that they revisit this whole thing in 6 months, or what kind of time frames would you?
So once they do the initial charter, it almost, in my experience, becomes almost a continuous thing. They revisit it at the retrospective, and they might decide, you know what, this mission, in fact, I just, with one of the teams that I'm coaching with, they just decided to redo their mission. That it really wasn't serving them the way they had initially defined it, and they took some time out and redefined their mission. So it's something that you want to revisit, just like a working agreement, definition of done, definition of ready, all those are kind of components. You take the opportunity of the retrospective to revisit those and make sure that you still all agree. And then, of course, as we mentioned before, when people are added to the team, or when the team makeup changes, or when their particular product role changes or anything like that. So any changes in the organization are good opportunities to revisit it. I don't really have a rule of thumb as an amount of time. It's really up to the team. But I do recommend that if they have, if they put a team charter together, that's something that they revisit regularly. If not, every other retro, or every once in a while on a schedule, revisit it, make sure that everybody still agrees with the tenets of the charter.
And if you choose to do it on a continuous basis, it would be one whole day or 2 days?
Oh, when you revisit the charter, you're usually just looking at one piece of it. Like, I want to redo the mission, or we need to look at part of our working agreement. And those can take an hour or whatever. You can do it as part of the retro, decide to do it as a separate meeting or something like that. You don't have to take a whole day in that case.
So, I mean, when you started.
When you started, I recommend planning at least a day, but not doing it all in a single day. So two sessions over a couple of days, because that gets to be a long day and a lot of talking and haggling and stuff like that.
Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, you said the mission wasn't working for them. What does it mean by that?
I'm sorry?
You said the mission wasn't working for them, so they revisited. What do you mean by the mission wasn't working for them?
It didn't speak to what they really needed to do. They got some direction from somebody else, actually the president of the organization, that sort of redirected where they needed to focus as a team, or they interpreted it as that. So they interpreted their mission at the beginning when they were first kicked off to be one thing, and then as several sprints later, they had a demo, and a very high executive in the company sort of changed their understanding of what their mission as a team was. So they rewrote it. Yes?
Two questions.
Okay.
So one is, how long do you see chartering, that initial chartering taking? How long is that period that you do that over?
So I would say 8 hours, but I wouldn't do it all in one session. So I would do it at least 2 sessions, 4 hours for maybe get all the way down to the vision, and then take the other 4 hours and talk about mission and working agreements. I usually do it over 2 days, 4 hours per day, or even 3 in shorter periods of time.
How much time do you put between those? Can you do them back to back?
Oh yeah, I mean you can. It gets tiring. It's a lot of talking. It's a lot of interacting, and usually I don't do sessions longer than an hour and a half or 2 hours. You take a break, you come back. But I'm just thinking the total time is probably about 8 for a normal sized team. I did have another team that had 14 people in it. That's a large team. It took a lot longer to do it in that case, because you're trying to build consensus among everybody.
Well, what I'm asking is because, do you need to space it out so that people have time to digest?
Yeah, absolutely. That's why I'm recommending.
So is a week too long or something?
Oh, I would. Yeah, I wouldn't drag it beyond a week. They need to remember exactly what their conversations they had about the vision when they're talking about their mission and so forth. So that it needs to be fresh in their mind. They're already thinking about it. That's my suggestion.
Yep. And then the second question I had was, if there's resistance to chartering, but chartering is being done, and I think just like Agile, right? I mean, it's not always easy to change, and it's about going through and trying it and learning it as you go. Do you see in your own experience, like maybe how, what's that measure before people who are like hanging back or not really participating or sabotaging, is it like 2 sprints or is it 3 sprints or,
Oh, you mean what's a good time to? I mean, if you can talk people into it, I do it on sprint 0. But if there's a lot of resistance from the team, you can't make them do it. But to be honest, there's been a couple of examples where the team didn't want to do it right away, and by the 3rd sprint, they decided to do it. I have never had a team that told me that they didn't get a lot out of doing the charter. Sometimes it becomes clear after a few sprints that maybe they do need a little bit of alignment, and they can see that themselves. Yeah?
What are some strategies that you would use if your team is adverse to the charter creation?
So I think you take what you get. So if you can at least talk them into doing some working agreements and things like that. And then use the fact, it depends on how much you can interact with them. If you're a coach or if you're a scrum master or something like that, then go through a couple of sprints and point out the areas where they may have, how long is it taking them to do sprint planning or backlog grooming, and point out if they really kind of understood exactly where they're going, how that might improve. But at the end of the day, they need to participate, they need to want to participate in it for it to be effective.
So Chris, the order that you see here, pretty much you recommend top to bottom? Is there any room for sometimes going backwards or starting somewhere? Because vision, mission, some teams may or may not want to participate in, whereas working agreement, they absolutely want to participate.
Right. So like I said before, sometimes all you can really get them to talk about is a working agreement. So if you want to just jump to that, that's fine. I think it's better if you go through the shared values and all that sort of stuff to help inform the working agreement, because you're talking about behaviors, and understanding each other helps to inform that working agreement and the things that you want to agree upon. I find that this is the best order. If you can, you get the teams to do it. The member profile and the shared values inform your vision, and then of course the vision leads into the mission, and the mission tests, of course, and then the working agreement's at the last, because that's kind of built on top of everything. But if you can't, if you can't get them to do that, you can't get them to do it. Any other questions? So that's pretty much the workshop. I do want to point you to a Dropbox folder if you're interested in any of this material. It's basically tiny URL, team charter workshop. All this stuff is there. Except for the presentation is an old version. I'll update it as soon as I can get a chance. I really do iterate on this almost on a weekly basis. So speaking of that, there is a feedback at the back of the room. I love feedback, good, bad, or just ideas. I'd love to hear what you have to say. Every single workshop, I've gotten really good suggestions, and this has changed every time that I've done it. So I really would appreciate hearing your feedback. Just write it on a sticky and put it on the feedback there on the left of the door.
We also have feedback forms that we'll share with you.
Okay, awesome.
But do encourage them to do this.
Okay, thank you. All right, any other questions? Oh, yes.
Well, it's not a question, but it's a comment to remind everybody that this is on video, so they're out there every month. I don't know how long exactly it gets out there. I think it's within the next month, it's not. And that's a great way to kind of go back, because I think it helps a lot to have your voice connected to the words that are up on the screen.
Thank you. Any other questions? Thank you. You guys have been a great group. Thank you so much for participating and inviting me to come and enjoy it.